Hi, friends. I wanted to take a little time today to talk about panic attacks, or more specifically, things that I have learned throughout the years that have been extremely helpful for me when it comes to self soothing during panic attacks. I'm constantly amazed by the amount of people that I come across in person and online who have no idea about these things that I have been using for years. And to me, it's just kind of common knowledge because I talk about it all the time. And when you talk about something all the time, you start to just assume that everybody knows what you're talking about, and they don't. So I figured I would make a video and do my best to spread it far and wide about these things that have changed my life. Changed my life. So these three things, along with a ton of other lifestyle changes, have pretty much brought my anxiety down from like full throttle, 100%, way down to like 20 to 25% severity just in my daily life. So these are things that are specifically for helping with panic attacks. But when you have the courage and the knowledge and the like comfort, I guess, of knowing that if you have a panic attack, you are pretty confident that you can, you know, push through it, and there are things that you can do to pull yourself out of it. It really changes the way that you look at life and anxiety if you have, chronic anxiety or panic disorder like I do. Knowing that a panic attack isn't going to ruin your whole day is a huge weight off your shoulders. So here are some things that I do when I'm having panic attacks. So the first thing is icing your vagus nerve. So the three things, I'll just list them up front because if you are aware of all three of them, you don't need to waste your time with this video. So it's icing your vagus nerve, box breathing, and journaling. Those are my three like golden tickets to some semblance of sanity. So the first one is my favorite. It's the easiest. It's extremely effective. It's icing your vagus nerve. It's also become like a huge thing on TikTok. Like there's this big trend, lots of videos going around about icing your vagus nerve, and that's because it works. So to ice your vagus nerve, all you need to do is take an ice pack or whatever you have in your freezer, ice or a steak or a bag of frozen peas, doesn't matter as long as it's frozen, and just place it on your chest. You can place it in the middle of your chest on your sternum, or you can place it on your clavicle, or you can rub it along your clavicle, your left clavicle, that is. As far as I know, your vagus nerve does not run through your right clavicle. And what that does is it brings down the inflammation in your vagus nerve and allows your nervous system to go back to functioning properly, which we all need, but especially those of us with any sort of mental health struggles. So what I do is I take an ice pack and I wrap it in a tea towel and I place it right on my chest, right in the middle, and I do it on bare skin. If I'm wearing clothes, I will slip it under my shirt or my dress or whatever. I'll leave it there for 5 to 15 minutes, and that's usually plenty of time to get me at least back to feeling human enough to go on with my day or analyze my current mental state. Why am I having a panic attack? What's going on? Or more commonly, to just fall asleep because my body is exhausted from being overexerted by all of that adrenaline. So put an ice pack on your chest or on your clavicle for however long you need. I find that 5 to 15 minutes is perfect for me, but everybody's different. So just kind of experiment with the length of time that you do. And if you are sensitive to cold, like I am, I actually didn't want to try this hack because I was like, when I'm having a panic attack, I feel so cold, and ice is just going to make that worse. And so the first time I tried it, I like wrapped myself up real tight, bundled up in a comforter. But it turns out when I have ice on my chest, I can almost not even feel it. Like I'm not super sure what the biological source is for that, or what the biology is behind that. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I pretty much just woke up, but I'm doing my best. I'm going to get this information out there. But the ice, it doesn't bother me the way that I thought that it would. And so that's become my favorite trick because it's effective. It's not as uncomfortable as I thought it was going to be. And it's super, super easy. All you have to do, grab something out of your freezer, slap it on your chest, and just sit there with it. It's awesome. I think that's all I have to say about that one. So we're going to move on to box breathing. Box breathing is pretty straightforward. It's not as easy as just putting ice on your chest, but it's pretty simple. So for box breathing, what you do is you inhale, preferably through your nose if you can. If you have like some sort of illness or a stuffy nose, then breathing in through your mouth is fine. But breathing in through your nose breathing is really biologically and medically significant. And that's a whole nother topic that we'll talk about at another time, but it's good to know. So breathe in for 4 counts, hold your breath for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, and then hold your breath on the exhale for 4 counts, and then repeat that as many times as you need. For me, box breathing is typically pretty effective after like 10 to 20 minutes, sometimes up to 30 minutes. But there have been times that I've done box breathing for upwards of an hour and it didn't help me. And what did help me was the ice on my chest. But I do notice that box breathing combined with ice on my chest makes for a really quick turnover to get myself out of that panic attack state and back into living my life. So I do use it mostly as a supplemental thing, but if I'm out and about and I don't have ice, because that happens, I do try box breathing, and it's usually pretty effective. It was actually my like holy grail. I sang its praises for years until I found out about the icing the vagus nerve thing. Because I used to have no idea how to get myself out of a panic attack. It was like, I just assumed I just have to let it pass and just have to keep telling myself, this has happened before and you've always survived it and you're not going to die. But then I discovered box breathing. I started telling everyone because it was awesome to be able to just go, oh, I can count while I breathe and then I'm fine. But I will say that sometimes a big issue with box breathing is the counting. So often when you're having a panic attack, your mind is racing and it can be really difficult to focus on counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I found something that really, really helps me with that is I got an analog clock that I keep in my bedroom, which is where I have most of my panic attacks. My panic loves to set in when I'm trying to sleep and relax. And so an analog clock was super helpful because it's got that audible tick that makes it much, much easier for me to count along to. If you don't have an analog clock, if you have no interest in getting an analog clock or you can afford an analog clock, you can also get an app on your phone. You can get an analog clock app. You can get like a metronome app, anything that will make an audible noise. I think that there are even apps that will count out loud for you at a certain pace, whatever pace you set. I haven't actually looked too much into that, so I'm not super confident about that, but I think it exists. And another thing is sometimes when you're having a panic attack, you're taking really short, shallow, speedy breaths, and it can be really hard to go, okay, I'm going to go from this basic hyperventilating to breathing nice and slow and measured. And I recognize that, and something you can do to combat that is to just shorten the counts. You can start with 3 counts or even 2 counts. I would suggest avoiding 1 count because that's essentially just hyperventilating and that's not going to do you any good. And so if you have to start at a lower count, that's fine. That is not a problem at all. It is better to do that than to do nothing, because if you are getting measured breaths and if you're focusing on your breathing, it's going to help overall. It's going to help with your breathing and it's going to help you focus and slow your thoughts down, which both things are really important and helpful in a panic attack. So just do what you can. Use whatever hacks that you can. Get yourself that app, get yourself an analog clock, whatever it is you need to do, and try to do some box breathing. And if it doesn't work for you, I would suggest to try it for a longer period of time, but if not, just try to put some ice on your chest instead, because that I have found to be more effective, easier, less stress. And the third thing is journaling. So I'm not saying you need to journal every day. I'm not saying you've got to pull out your journal every morning and every night and like write down all of the things that you're feeling and thinking. But you should have an anxiety journal if you can. If you can remember to do it. I know that anxiety can really mess up our memory and our thought processes and our attention span. But something that has helped me tremendously is just pulling up. I actually just journal on my phone. I pull it up in my notes and I have something that's labeled anxiety journal. And I put a time and date on it for every entry. And you don't have to do that. I'm not even super sure why I do it. I just like to be organized. And then I write down that I'm having a panic attack or high anxiety. I write down specifically what I'm feeling because I have this wonderful cornucopia of different symptoms in my anxiety. And so I'll write down, oh, well, this time I'm feeling dissociative, or this time I'm feeling like my hands are tingling, or I'm dizzy, or I can't breathe, my throat is closing, etc. And then I'll write what I did the most recently. So, oh, my throat is closing and I can't breathe, and I just ate a bunch of sugar. I'll write whatever is the most likely to be connected to my anxiety. And then I'll also write pretty much everything I did throughout the day. Not everything, but things that I find to be pertinent. So I first write down how well rested I am. I do my very best to write down everything that I ate throughout the day because I have a lot of food triggers for my anxiety, a lot of food triggers. I write down if I'm hydrated, how much water I had that day. I write down how much screen time I've got that day because screen time really messes me up. And I write down how much exercise I got that day. And your list may be completely different, probably be completely different. But it's important to kind of have a list, a little short checklist of things to make note of every time that you're feeling anxiety or panic, because recognizing patterns will help you recognize triggers and either avoid them or work on them and try to heal them. And that is a really, really big step in trying to heal your anxiety. I think that's all that I have to say about journaling as well. It is important that if you are a journal every day kind of person, that your anxiety journal is separate from your normal journal, because you want to be able to look back at it and just look at it in an organized, systematic way to see, okay, on this day I had anxiety and this is what I did, and on this day I had anxiety. So you're not flipping back and forth through pages like, oh, well, today I woke up and here's the dream that I had last night, and then the next entry is, oh, and then tonight I had anxiety. You don't want to have to sort through it because that just makes it more difficult. And we're going for ease when we're trying to ease our anxiety because we don't want to add more stress to our life, right? That makes sense, I think, right? So have a separate anxiety journal. Go out and buy yourself a cute one with unicorns or a puppy on it, or just do what I do and have it on your phone. I like to have mine on my phone because I bring my phone everywhere with me, and it's not something else that I need to remember because I would not remember to take it with me. So I think that concludes my 3 favorite anxiety panic attack tips. And let me tell you, since I started utilizing these 3 things, as well as a pretty fair amount of other lifestyle changes, which I will make videos about later, I have gone from, there have been times in my life that I was having a panic attack every day, sometimes twice a day. There have been days that I was having a panic attack all day long. And now that I've got these going for me, I think I have a panic attack maybe once a month, twice a month, and a bad month. It's made a huge difference. It's really, really worth trying. So hopefully somebody sees this and tries these things out and it helps someone. And if it helps you, let me know, because I really, I don't want to say I need to feel validated, but what am I doing with my life if I'm not helping people, So I would love to hear your feedback. Thanks, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day.